Another thing I learned from reading the book, which is going to shock you that I didn't know, but this shows how little I am tuned into media and Hollywood and all that, is your relationship with Tupac.
Oh, yeah.
He comes over, introduces himself.
Yeah, first day of school, Baltimore School for the Arts. And as soon as I walk in, he's holding court. He's a charismatic from day one. He's holding court. And I'm like, who's that peanut head dude over there, you know? And I'm coming in, I'm rocking, you know, I'm Jada. I'm walking in, I got the rat tail, I got the fly clothes, you know. And he turns and our eyes just meet. And I'm like, oh. And then, you know, I'm going to hold my court, you know what I'm saying? And so then he comes over, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, whatever. And so he comes over and he's like, hey, I'm Tupac. And I'm like, Tupac? The name from the gate was just like, I never heard a name like that before. That was such a powerful, different name. And I was like, Tupac. And he had this big smile. And I was like, it's not a lot of people that have that kind of like charisma and courage to just walk up on me on just like, I'm Tupac. You know what I mean? You need to know me, you know? And right from there, inseparable. We became the best of friends from that moment on. We just connected. It was as if we already knew each other. It's crazy.
People will find it hard to believe that at that age, in that environment, it wasn't a romantic thing.
I know. People have had a really hard time, you know, understanding that. Pac and I had a hard time understanding why it just we didn't have it. And I talk about it in the book, you know, that being on the back of porch of my house and we're like having this discussion. I'm like, okay, Pac, just kiss me. And he kisses me and it's the most disgusting kiss between us both. I mean, he pulled back just like, and I pulled back and I was like, see, dummy, you know, and from there, it was just like, and then there was one more time he kissed me and it was just like, and I talk about that in jail when I go to see him in Dannemora. That's a whole nother thing. And once again, it's just like, dude, doesn't work. But throughout our relationship, we definitely had this beautiful closeness that was really intimate, but never physically intimate. A lot of emotional intimacy, a lot of intellectual intimacy. We just knew how to reach each other in ways that was very difficult. We knew how to get around each other's walls. And we didn't get offended when we would fall into our defaults of defense, which could be pretty fierce between the two of us. He was quite a powerhouse, and so was I. We could be very challenging when we got riled up. So arguments, we were very passionate, but because we were one and the same in that way, we kind of understood that language. It's like, oh, this joke is, you know what I mean? So we didn't get offended a lot until one particular time, which comes later in the book.
Yeah, when you come from the same place or you know the origin stories, you don't have that misunderstood thing you talk about because you understand.
I just understood him. I just understood him. And he understood me. He really got me. And he really knew how to pull my coattails in ways that a lot of people didn't. And same for me with him. I just knew how to reach him in ways that, and that had everything to, and I think because we didn't have that kind of, I think sometimes physical intimacy can really get in the way, you know? And I think that God just made it that way, in which God was like, no, I need you to be, I got a plan. So that's not part of the plan.
Did you in your heart of hearts know that Tupac was going to go on to do what he did?
I knew he was going to go to do something. I did not know he would become the Tupac we know him to be. But I knew he was going to do something great.
In hindsight, when you look back at who he was, the character traits, the ingredients that were within him, why did he go on to do what he did? What was it about him?
He wore his heart on his sleeve, and he could join you. And so what I mean by joining you is that he's not talking at you. He's talking with you. He had a way of being able to speak about subject matters that he's going to sit with you in your broken heart and speak to you from there, because he knows that broken heart. He's lived that broken heart. So, and whether it's your broken heart, whether it's your rage, but he just knew how to penetrate those emotional spaces in people. And that's what I mean by joining you. He knew how to join you emotionally in so many different verticals of emotion. You know, he was supremely intelligent as well. He was so authentic also and so raw that I think that was really refreshing as well. He gave you him. And he was unapologetic. So he's going to give you his intelligence. He's going to give you his fear. He's going to give you his pain. He's going to give you his anger. You know, he's going to give you his sympathy. He's going to give you his understanding, right? But it was coming from that heart space, that real space within. It wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to talk about this because this is what's hot. No. You know, right, wrong, or indifferent, he gave you his truth. And some truths people could rock with them, and some truths you couldn't, you know what I mean? And, but regardless, it was what was real for him at that time. He was always authentic.
But it's not easy. It comes with a cost, right?
It comes with a cost.
Because it's almost the opposite of conformity in a way, authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. And he was a rebel in that way. And I think people really, at points in his career, you know, he would speak for the community. And then at points of his career, he would speak from that really intimate place of woundedness.
Dear mama.
Yeah. You know, that so many of us related to. Nobody was speaking to us in that way. That could go from ambitions of a writer to shed so many tears to a soldier story. Come on. Come on. You know, to, I mean, he could speak to us from so many different angles.
That is just the evidence of authenticity, isn't it? Because people are multifaceted in their nature. No one is just ambition of a rider. Like,
yeah.
We are all the shades.
All the shades, right?
But rap music, especially back then, was very narrowing. It was like, this is how to be a rapper. So someone willing to be authentic. It's funny, I've seen this over and over again. They are the most resonant people in the world because they represent us in a way that a lot of others aren't brave enough to represent us in. That's also what vulnerability does.
Yes.
That's what you do as well in this book.
Well, thank you.
Because you're willing to lay it all out, we can relate to, many people will be able to relate to many parts of you. And, you know, without books like this, we get narrow views. And those narrow views, I mean, those are crafted by other people and they're the least relatable narratives, right?
Yeah, and we're also multidimensional.
You
right.
But actually, you knew there was so much more to it. How were you able to allow that to unfold? Because I think so many of us get so scared if we're not into someone, we go, oh God, I'm just going to push them away.
Yeah.
Or that person eventually tries to make a move anyway. But here it was like this beautiful respect, you both created that.
Yeah, we both did. We both had the intelligence. You know, we were both really young. So I thank the great Supreme for this too, that there was no physical chemistry between us. I mean, literally, it was like, and I try to explain this to people. It was the same for Pac. It was just like when I dared him to kiss me, it was like ew, for us both, right? And we look, it's like, how can that be? How can you feel so connected to someone of the opposite sex? There was just this beautiful understanding. You know, when you can just sit with somebody in a room and you don't have to say a word. And there's just this level of comfort.
Yeah.
We just knew each other. The moment Pac saw me and our eyes, and I saw his peanut head across the room at Baltimore School of the Arts, it was like I knew him already. We just got each other. I just understood him in that understanding. And he understood me. So we could pull each other's coattails, but we could also join each other. When I talk about that joining, when you can sit with somebody and really feel like they see you, they understand you, they care about you, and they're going to be there by you no matter what. That was Tupac. He was going to ride with me no matter what. He was so authentic, and it's rare that level of authenticity. And he wore his heart on his sleeve, and there was just this amount of loyalty between us. And I think also the fact that we both struggled with mothers who were addicts, and we tried to compensate for one another of not having that peace. And we didn't boo-hoo about it. We understood how to fill in the voids without getting all hallmarky about it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so we just kind of knew how to flow with each other in a way that was very comfortable.
Yeah.
It's always hard to kind of explain, because it was like, it's almost like he was really a kindred. That's the only way I could really explain it. And I feel so lucky and so blessed that I got to know a being like himself in that way, because he was such a dynamic person. But you can feel it because his music. I went to go see him in Rikers, and Rikers is actually, Dannemora might be where they put terrorists. Rikers is like, I remember going to see him there, and he was in such bad shape, you know. And the Rikers, Rikers was bad. Dannemora, terrorists are there, but far more humane conditions than, I would say, Rikers.
It feels like the emotion is still right on the surface with you when you think back to these moments in your life.
Oh yeah. It feels like I just came back from seeing Pac at Rikers, and I had to leave him there. It's just like yesterday. But I'm also in a very raw place in my life right now as I'm thawing out, as I'm dismantling my defenses. You know, I call it the thaw out. So I'm in a really raw place.
Obviously, Pac he gets out of jail, and Suge Knight, I mean, talking about timing, I think it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago that someone's been convicted for Tupac's murder. A lot of emotions.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you heard about the conviction, or that an arrest had been made?
I was glad that an arrest had been made. This was someone who we had known had been in the car. He had done some street interviews about it, you know. And I was just hoping, I was like, well, I hope they're bringing him in because we're going to get some other questions answered. So, you know, my hope is that we'll get more questions answered.
In the book, you question, but then you confirm that Tupac knew how you felt about him when he passed away, because you and him hadn't been speaking.
No.
And I think there's a really important lesson in this for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a huge fight. Huge. It was one of the biggest fights we had ever had. And it was about how he had been living, you know. And I really, at that time, you know, really had to let him know my position, that I just felt like, you know, where he was sitting with everything was just, it wasn't going to end up well. Right? And we had a magnanimous, I mean, it was just beyond the two of us, just at each other. And I was just like, fuck that. I'm not calling him this time. He's gonna have to call me. He was way out of line. So I really dug my heels in the ground in regards to like, nah. You know, I let my pride, I let my ego come in. I really took for granted that he would be living forever. Like he had already survived so much. Like it never, like I looked at Pac as being invincible at this point. You know, because he survived so much, even so much that people don't know about, you know. But just like I say in the book, I'm like, man, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't hold on to like that prideful part of yourself, you know, with someone you really care about. Like, no, I mean, you know, he gonna have to call me this time. You know, it's like, nope.
Was that the last time you spoke to him?
That was the last time I spoke to him. That was the last time I spoke to him. That was the last time I spoke to him. And you know what's crazy? It meant absolutely nothing. It meant absolutely nothing. And so that's the test I always have. I'm like, okay, you're in this beef with somebody. Will this beef matter on your deathbed? And then right away, I'm like, nope, let me give him a call. You know what I'm saying? That's my test.
Almost a year later, he gets shot in Las Vegas. You get a phone call while you're filming on set that he's I believe from his mother, Afeni Shakur, and saying that he's in hospital in a coma. And a few days after that, you find out that he's passed away.
Yeah, I was on my way.
Tirade warning Chris not to mention his wife's name. Jada couldn't believe what she was hearing.
What is going on? Now, first of all, I'm really shocked because, mind you, I'm not there. We haven't called each other husband and wife in a long time. I'm like, what is going on right now?
Keep my wife's name
out of your mouth, right? And I'm like, but now I'm really worried for Will because I don't know what's going on.
What viewers did not see at the time, while Oscar clips were being shown, was Chris Rock leaning over the stage to talk to Jada.
And Chris looks to me and he says, Jada, I meant no harm. Now, I'm just out of it because I really worried about
And what's Will doing? He's just sitting there?
And Will's still talking. He's like, he's still, because now he's mad because Chris is talking to me. And I go, Chris, this is about some old shit. That's all I could think to say, right? And I couldn't really take in his apology.
How unusual for Will, a guy who, I mean, on that kind of stage to do something so insane.
Absolutely.
It's totally out of character.
It's not him whatsoever.
Fun fact about me, I can take it almost anywhere.
Peace, your boy from Media Room. It turns out Jada Pinkett Smith is pouring it all out ahead of her new book, Worthy. On Friday night, Pinkett Smith sat down with today's Hoda and discussed her complicated marriage to Will Smith, in addition to the famous Oscar slap and her healing journey as talked about on her campaign tour in the NBC News primetime special that aired Friday. The actress also shared insight into her relationship with Tupac Shakur on many media outlets just within the past week. Jada also went on and admitted that legendary rapper Tupac Shakur was one of her kindred spirits or twin flames, so to speak. While there has been a lot of speculation regarding whether or not they were intimate or not, Pinkett Smith opened up about why it was not necessary to have intercourse because they were both intelligent. Allegedly, they had no physical nor sexual chemistry, arguing that she dared him to kiss her. They both had an ill moment at the time. Pinkett Smith continued speaking about how there were situations that which they were living together, such as the troubled relationship with their mother, who they suffered with very young, and they were struggling with addiction at the same time. She mentioned that they will compensate for not being at peace while also understanding the situation without getting all quote unquote hallmarky about it. Clearly there were signs of trauma bonding, which I think she was accustomed to believing or mistaking that as actual true love. But not in most cases. She even used August Alsina emotions against him, and now he's nowhere to be found. And he also has been very hurt because he actually confided in her with all of his trauma. So the situation to me ties into this whole entire situation with Tupac Shakur. This is how we should perceive Jada Pinkett, in my opinion. Pinkett Smith claimed that there were situations that they felt very connected to each other, and that they would then know how to flow and be comfortable without no need to be in each other's business all the time, which to me just proves more of the trauma bonding statement, all more true. There was never no true love, but she might have perceived it as that. It seems as if Tupac just trusted her to have deep conversations with, something like a therapist or a psychiatrist. Now, Will Smith posted an IG video amid of all of this with the caption, "Notification off." Because as the saying goes, hear no evil, see no evil. And that's the high approach Will Smith is taking on all of this. And that's been it. I'll keep you guys updated on the situation as it goes on. It's been your boy. I'm for Media Room. Like, comment, share, like, comment, share, like, comment, share, and subscribe.